Hello everyone, Tom from the Airsoft Headquarters, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing things a little bit different. I know we have a little bit different of a background, and this is going to be kind of just the temporary space as far as review or overview videos for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. So today I have the Elite Force Smith & Wesson M&P40, the CO2 full blowback model. So if you guys follow Elite Force or are familiar with any of their products, you do know that some of the Smith & Wesson replicas that are currently on the market are going to be from Elite Force. However, they're going to be CO2 non-blowback, CO2 half blowback, green gas non-blowback, Springer, stuff like that. So this is really one of the first ones from VFC, or not from VFC, from Elite Force, that is going to be from KWC. So the same guys that are manufacturing or assembling the Elite Force 1911s are also doing the M&P40 here. The 1911s, very durable, the #1 recommended pistol currently on the market. So in playing and seeing other customers kind of talking about this, I'm really glad to say that I think that this is one that has held up and will hold up very, very, very well. So of course, because it is CO2, it is going to have a little bit harder of a kick compared to some green gas pistols. CO2 as well, higher pressure output, so it is, with most tendencies, is going to have a higher velocity. Not in this case. In this pistol specifically, it is going to be shooting from 330 to 300 feet per second, which is a pretty good mediation as far as for an indoor and an outdoor based pistol that is able to go ahead and get some range. Now, the overall construction is very, very solid, very nice. I'm a huge fan of it, and of course you can see there are the license and trademark markings all over here. So you have the M40 Smith & Wesson, M&P40, Smith & Wesson, Smith & Wesson Factory, Smith & Wesson, Smith & Wesson. You know, everything that is kind of what it would be on a real 40 Smith & Wesson is also present here. Plus you have the cool little 6mm on the side there. Overall, the frame is going to be a polymer construction, very lightweight, very solid, very much like the real M&P40, and then it is going to be a metal slide construction up here as well. The magazine as well is also going to be all metal. However, the majority of metal, such as the magazine and the slide, are going to be a aluminum metal. A lot of the body pins, as well as the hammer assembly, are going to be steel construction. Those are the ones that were magnetized, so they're going to be a higher strength, more durable metal, which for a hammer assembly for CO2 is something you really want to look for. Then it's going to be able to withhold that higher pressure and be able to withstand, you know, for a good period of time. For some of the other features on the M&P40, we do have just standard white dot iron sights back here. They're not raised at all or anything special like that. Everything that is standard on the M&P40, such as a bevel here up front, some slight serration, wave serrations on the back here. It's very cool that they put the round indicator up here. It's really not useful for airsoft because the BB would be sitting farther forward, but it is very cool that they did include that for a little bit more realism, helps with training, stuff like that. You'll notice on the side here, there is a slide release and a thumb safety here, which does mean it is fully ambidextrous. In fact, pull that slide back, hit that slide release, does work. That safety for the left hand is going to work as well. Of course, it is going to be here on the right side. Slide back, slide release, thumb safety, thumb safety. However, I don't know about the magazine release if it is fully ambidextrous either. I assume that it would be, but I really have no way of knowing for certain. Of course, as with is standard with M&Ps, for Smith & Wessons I should say, there is going to be a dual trigger. Not really dual trigger, but there's this weird break in it, so you do have to put pressure down here on the bottom of the trigger in order to engage the firing mechanism. If you put pressure up on the top of the trigger like this, that pistol is not going to go off. So you have to put your full finger in there in order to engage the firing mechanism. You do have a couple of rails up on the very front here in order to put any sort of flashlight, lasers, foregrips, stuff like that. And then the magazine as well, like I said, is CO2. I don't think that there are any extended magazines currently that will fit inside the M&P40. We'll go over the magazine in a minute. Inside the box, there are going to be 2 additional back straps as well. The one that would be coming on it is going to be a medium size, so there is a large and a smaller size. In order to change those out, you have this little extension piece here that can rotate, and then you go ahead and just pull it out. You may need a little assistance, such as the edge of a knife, in order to pull some of the back straps up, but it just rotates out of the way, and you can go ahead and put the larger one or the small one in place. And a reverse of operations on the pin, slide it into place like so, and then rotate back forward. So that grip then is changed. The reason why they would put some of these straps in aftermarket is going to be for people that are going to be having different sized hands. So this is helpful for younger bass players or more larger adult bass players. You know, they do have a wider range of hand size, so that is going to help. If you guys remember, some of our previous videos before we went to SHOT Show was a comparison between Airsoft Glocks and real Glocks. And the Elite Force ones are very, very, very similar, almost 0.02 of an inch. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a real M&P40 Smith & Wesson in order to double check the size comparison, but in feeling the real ones previously and holding them, they are very, very comparable based on my knowledge. Again, I don't have direct dimensions or measurements in order to compare them off, or to compare them both. The magazine is going to be very similar to the real magazine as well. This one is going to hold 15 plus 1 rounds, and that is going to be what the real one holds, 15 plus 1. So not really the greatest as far as airsoft capacity, but for training purposes, especially if you want something that's very realistic. So for law enforcement, military, people that carry the M&P40, this is going to be an excellent training option. For me personally, I have a real Glock, and so I use the Elite Force Glock in order to practice dry fire training or pulling from concealment while I'm in the house, because range time and ammunition can get fairly costly. For disassembly of the pistol, of course, you are going to remove that magazine. The slide is going to kick backwards, and you're going to hold it back there. If I can do this off or without looking at the slide, rotate that forward, slide comes all the way off. So now you have your frame and you have your slide disassembled. For any maintenance or cleaning, that is how you're going to do that. With this as well, this also gives you access to the hop-up unit. Now for the 40s, or for this 40 Smith & Wesson, these are going to use a flathead type of hop-up unit. If we pull the spring guide, this guy here, pull that forward without pulling the barrel with it. There we go. That right there is going to be your hop-up adjustment. So you're going to get a small flathead. There is not one that comes in the box. And you're going to make adjustments to that flathead, reassemble the pistol, take a couple shots, maybe you have to pull it apart, make some more adjustments, either tighter or looser, in order to get that optimal hop. Now with a flathead, this in my opinion is going to be one of the better type of hop-up units for a pistol. This one is going to hold its zero for much, much longer and has a lower chance of changing that hop-up while you are playing with it. Other pistols that use a wheel style that you can just turn with your finger have a tendency of losing zero, or overall losing their ability to increase or decrease hop just over time, heavy use, stuff like that. And then, as I was talking right there, slide all the way back, far enough to where you can put this tab back into place, rock the slide a couple times, the trigger, and then just make sure that everything is aligned and in place there. And then you're good to go. With the magazine, like I said, it is CO2 powered, so it is going to have a higher pressure output, metal construction, 15 rounds. What is weird is that there is going to be a tab here, and this is the part of the pistol that I have seen customers have some sort of issues with. Inside the box there is going to be an Allen screw in order to change that CO2 or loosen that tab. However, just because I have this tool handy right here, I'm just going to go ahead and use this. So rotate that out of place, and then you have your cap, and then you have your magazine. When you drop your 12 gram CO2 canister in there, sometimes this is going to sit out of place because you do have to take it all the way out and try to align it back in. So there is a pretty good chance, or a high possibility, of not threading correctly and cross-threading to where you are going to break your threads up, and that essentially ruins the magazine. So as you saw me doing it by hand, twisting it until I need the assistance of my tool, and then that will then puncture the CO2 canister and then tighten it all the way down to where everything works and is in place. That is my trick for that. So while I did play test this, I thought it was a very solid pistol. Of course, there was the downside of only having 15 total rounds, or 16 rounds, depending on how you want to look at it. And I was kind of silly and did not include a spare magazine on my kit. So I just ran around with 15 rounds or 16 rounds in the magazine total. Didn't bother with a speed loader because I didn't think much of it, and ended up running out of rounds pretty quickly while I was in game. So having to either duck back into cover, find someone that had a speed loader, stuff like that, which was a miscalculation on my part. Now, for some of you guys that are going to like some of the aftermarket stuff, there currently is nothing available. Because these are so new and because these aren't really the most popular, there isn't anyone such as Elite Force or KWC that is making aftermarket parts, and there's no one that is going to be a third-party manufacturer making parts for this. So there's no threaded barrel, no aftermarket optics, no competition triggers, no extended magazines, stuff like that. So what you see essentially is what you get. Which overall is not really a bad thing. Overall, it's very solid. It performed very, very well. It did hold its zero very, very nicely for hop up. It performed very, very well. Had no issues with it while I was playing, other than with that lower mag capacity. But you just make the adjustment of having a speed loader consciously on you, or you have spare magazines readily available. Currently, the Airsoft Headquarters has these for $135. They are going to range as far as pricing from $130 to maybe $140, $145 I saw on some online sites. So you do have a pretty good fluctuation within a couple of bucks as far as one of these to pick up. Like I said before, they are very, very similar to the real pistol as far as I can tell. Again, I don't have a real one right next to me in order to do a side-by-side comparison. So if you are looking for any sort of training options or want to do any sort of replica kits, this is going to be a very good option to go ahead and pick that up. You can pick one of these up at the Airsoft Headquarters, or really anywhere that is going to be a huge fan of Elite Force. And that is really all I have for you guys as of today. Of course, you guys subscribe, please. Like the video, comment if you have any further questions, and stay safe, stay clean, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.